Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual employer roundtable: Why Women Are Leaving Cybersecurity and How We Can Change the Story. We have Dwan Jones, who is the Director of Inclusive Strategies and Engagement at ISC Squared, presenting on this topic. And Dwan, I'm going to hand it right over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. And hello, everyone. So great to finally be with you to talk about this really important issue. I think that's affecting us all, whether you're in the cybersecurity profession or not. We really have to pay attention to the resiliency and the sustainability of the cyber profession. And that definitely depends on who we bring into the profession and who we can keep in the profession so that we can continue to keep our communities and our infrastructure safe. And so that's really why we're going to be talking about women in the cyber profession. And we're going to talk about some statistics. I'm going to take you through the state of women in cybersecurity right now and some of the reasons why they're leaving. But then we're also going to talk about solutions and things that we can all do. And those of you who are employers and leaders within your organization, we're going to talk about some really tactical things that you can do to make sure that women don't leave the profession. And so, with that, I'm just going to take us through an overview of the session. And so, we absolutely appreciate that you're taking an hour out of your day to be with us and to learn about this topic. And so we want to make sure that you get everything that you can out of the hour that we have together. And so we really want to make sure that all of us understand what's contributing to the issue of women leaving the profession, learning best practices about programs and things that we can do to support women so that they don't leave. And then what are those practical tools that you can take away and use within your own organizations to help combat the attrition of women. And one of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure I pointed out is that I want this to be an interactive discussion. And so please use the audience chat. I have it up and I'm going to be checking that and looking through the comments throughout our time today. But I also have several questions that I want to ask of you. And so definitely feel free to use the audience chat throughout so that we can get your questions answered and make sure that you come away with everything that you need to move forward. And so, with that, I am going to jump right in to where we are right now in the cyber profession and women. If we look at ISC2's 2024 workforce study, and other studies that have come out around the globe around how many women we have in the profession, I believe it's about 20 to 25% of women are in the profession right now. And so when you think about that range, even at its highest at 25%, we are already starting out with not enough women in the profession. And so that's why it's even more important to make sure that we're doing what we can to bring more women in. But then what do we need to do to make sure they don't leave? Because at 25%, we definitely can't afford for those who are within the profession to leave. And so we're going to talk about some of that again today. One of the other statistics that really spoke to me was the percentage of women on cybersecurity teams. And so in our annual workforce study, we asked the question to participants: how many people are on your security team? And then we start to break that down by how many women are on your team. And so 16% of those who were surveyed said that they don't have any women. And then those who said, oh, they have about half are at 5%. And so again, looking at those statistics, it's really showing us, okay, we've got a lot of work to do. And those who even said, well, they're not even sure of how many women they have on their team is also telling. Another statistic here is the chart here on the lower right hand side is the job satisfaction of survey participants. And this is another question that we ask every year, because we want to know, okay, are you satisfied with your career in cybersecurity, and is that going up or going down year over year? So the really key thing here is that women said that they are actually more satisfied than men. So 67% of women said yes, they're satisfied with their current position, and that's compared to 66% of men. But the thing here too is that that has declined by 15 percentage points since 2022. And so we're about to release our 2025 report, but we're hoping that we see that jump back up, but we'll see. And so one of the things about that particular statistic is telling us is that, okay, if we can get women in, they're generally satisfied with their careers. But again, we want to see 66 and 67% be much higher. And so when we talk about where we are and some of the key factors that are really influencing why women leave, the first thing is around career advancement. So, women in cybersecurity often face barriers in career advancement. Despite women having higher representation in leadership roles, which is about 28% of women in cybersecurity have reached the C level compared to 19% of men, which is another amazing statistic. Despite that, women still may feel they need to overqualify themselves in order to succeed. And of course, we know that that leads to burnout and why they leave the field. And so they get in, they feel like they have to do so much more, they have to prove themselves so much more, and that leads to burnout, and then they leave. Another issue around career advancement is also that they leave because they don't see enough women in those leadership roles. Now, one part about that is, of course, we know that there's that saying that you need to see it to be it, right? So you need to see those who maybe come from a similar background, or you need to see women who have kind of made it through the ranks and understand how they got there so that you can believe that you can do the same thing. But another key point about that statistic is that when you are looking at pathways and ways to get there, if you can't see your own way to get there, that kind of leads you to think, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I need to depart the profession altogether. And we're seeing that through our workforce study as being one of the key factors as to why women are leaving, is that they're not seeing that clear pathway. The next key factor that's influencing attrition is around pay equity. And so only 16% of women earn 100K plus annually compared to 20% of men. And even though some might say, okay, well, that's only a 4% percentage point difference, but that's still high, and that still matters significantly, because when you see that across the board, and also when you think about the first key factor being women feeling pressure to overwork themselves, that leading to burnout. And then you also see, okay, I'm working so hard, but I'm still not getting the pay equal to a male counterpart. That is also a reason why women are leaving. And then also the next thing is around work environment and support. We talked about women not really seeing enough women in those higher leadership positions, and then they can't see a pathway of advancement for themselves. But then there's also something to be said about having more inclusive environments, right? So, are they experiencing bias? If they are the only woman on their cybersecurity team, are they feeling alone, feeling like they don't have someone that they can relate to? Are they not getting that inclusive and that feeling of belonging within their organization? And over time, that leads you to want to leave, because if you don't see it getting better, you don't see yourself being able to be included, that leads you to want to leave. And so, keeping those key things in mind, we also have quite a bit of statistics, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just wanted to show you some snapshots of other key things that lead, and especially today in 2025, that are leading women to leave the cybersecurity field, especially with things happening across budgets and budget cuts. When those things happen, women face them even more than men. So when you talk about budget cuts, when you talk about hiring freezes, or even freezes in pay increases or promotions, women feel that way more than men do when those are key factors happening within the workforce. Another key issue is, again, pulling back to that being included and having more of an inclusive environment. Women more often feel that they can't be authentic at work. And then overwhelmingly, by 10 percentage points more, they feel that they are more discriminated against in the workplace. And then when we talk about those who might have those other intersectionalities, so women of color, they face it even more. And then we've also seen that women who might have a different ability, the neurodivergent, they also start to feel it even more. And so these are things that we absolutely have to address. And you don't have to necessarily be a leader or have the leadership title or be a hiring manager to help combat some of these issues. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how we can really help to create a more inclusive workplace culture so that we can combat some of these things that we're seeing in the research. So the first thing is around mentorships. And we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the power of mentorships. And there's so many different ways that you can design and put a mentorship program together. But the key thing is understanding that when you put a mentorship program in place, there is power behind that. And it really does help to combat some of these issues, because women who whether it's a male ally who's a mentor or whether it's a woman who's a mentor, they really succeed when they have those kinds of programs in place. So when we look at the importance of mentorship, we also measure this in our annual workforce study. And we saw that 35% of women said that their organizations do offer mentorship programs, which is great. But that's also telling that we can do a lot more to provide those mentorship opportunities, whether it is within the organization. So, whether the organization has their own mentorship program that they develop and put together, or whether an organization partners with another organization, like the Cyber Guild, who has an amazing mentorship program. When you start to put those things in place, they really make a difference. And that is also key in the second bar graph here, where it talks about how a mentor encouraged me to pursue a cyber career. And so for women, having a mentor who helps them to think about their career in a different way and think about cyber as an opportunity for them, it matters more for women than for men. And the key thing here that I wanted to pull out from the data also is that when we talk about mentorship and when we ask this question about, how did a mentor kind of encourage you to pursue that career? We talked about whether it was a formal membership or maybe it was a family member who encouraged someone to think about cyber, or a teacher, or those types of things. And so it really does matter to have someone who knows about cyber and who can encourage someone to get into that field. Now, when we talk about mentorship and best practices, there are several things that organizations can do to really help build an effective mentorship program within your organization. And I'm going to take you through these eight key best practices. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit here as we go along. So the first one is around defining clear objectives, right? So start with the why. Why does this organization need a mentorship program? Is it about supporting career development? Is it about enhancing inclusion on specific teams? Is it about improving your retention rates? So, really being clear within the organization about why the mentorship program is important and why you want to do it is key. And then in those objectives, you want to, of course, set measurable outcomes. And this is where we've seen a lot of mentorship programs not be as effective, is that organizations will start a mentorship program, but don't have those key feedback mechanisms in place to make sure that the mentorship program is getting better, and that you're getting the feedback in order to make sure you understand what's working and what's not. And so being able to establish the metrics ahead of time before the program begins is really key. The second part of this is facilitating matching. And so we've definitely also seen mentorship programs that don't necessarily do this part well, but this again is key. Pairing mentors and mentees based on skill sets, experience, and interests is key. Making sure that the mentor and the mentee are aligned on their objectives and what the learning opportunities are. And so you have to really spend a good amount of time organizing how you're going to match the mentor and the mentee, and then also being flexible when you're putting those feedback mechanisms in place. And you might see, okay, this particular mentee isn't necessarily getting the experience that they need or getting what they thought they needed in order to progress their career, and being able to say, okay, maybe this isn't the best matching or best pairing. Let's switch it up. And that is perfectly okay. Because again, what is the key point? Why are we doing this? What are the clear objectives? And making sure that you keep that in mind and being flexible to say, okay, we can shift things around to make sure that both the mentor and the mentee are getting what they need on a continual basis. The third one is around providing training and resources. And I want to stress that this is very important, especially for the mentor. So, holding some sessions where they can get the skills to be an effective communicator, active listening, and providing constructive feedback to their mentor, to their mentee is key. And being able to set them up for success before that mentee mentor relationship starts is absolutely critical. And you can do these things through webinars or meetings where you're just kind of taking them through those things like effective communication and active listening. But you can also do this by providing them with reading materials and online courses. But I would say it doesn't necessarily, the mechanism doesn't necessarily matter. It matters that they get the training that they need, because not everyone is equipped with how to be a mentor. And so, again, keeping in mind your clear objectives, making sure that they get what they need to be able to be what they need for the mentee that they're matched with. The fourth is around establishing guidelines and structure. I put this in here because having a clear framework is absolutely important, and making sure that your program expectations, the roles and responsibilities for both the mentor and mentee are clear. But then that doesn't necessarily mean that your entire mentorship program has to be structured. We've definitely seen some what you would call informal mentorship arrangements be great. And if that is what you can do within your organization at this point in time, and it matches with your clear objectives, that's absolutely okay. But you still want to have some sort of framework around what the relationship is going to look like. Is this going to be a 6 month mentorship arrangement? Is it going to be a 2 year mentorship arrangement? And what are the key things that you want the mentor and the mentee to do in their relationship? You can outline to say, okay, in this program, we want to make sure that you are meeting with your mentor or in your mentee at least once a week or at least once a month. It you like I said, it doesn't have to be completely structured, but you do need to put some structure and framework in place to make sure that again it's successful for everyone involved. Fostering a supportive culture. And so, one of the key things here is around engaging company leaders to participate. They don't necessarily have to be a mentor, but engaging them to make sure that they champion the program and promote it across their teams is absolutely important. And so, having that leadership buy in really helps to promote that supportive culture. And so mentors and mentees feel like, okay, if I'm going to participate in this program, I have my leader support and they know that, okay, an hour out of my week, I'm going to be spending time with my mentor. And that's okay. And they understand that. And so having that in place is also a key part of this. The sixth one is around encouraging feedback and adaptation. I talked about this previously, but again, feedback, feedback, feedback. Make sure that you are gathering feedback throughout the process and throughout the program, not just at the end. Making sure that you're getting those touch points throughout the mentorship program so that you can adapt and be agile as you need to because you might need to change things up to make it successful for everyone. And then recognize and celebrate success. When you see mentees growing or achieving their goals that were set out at the beginning of the mentorship program, make sure you shout that out in your company meetings or on your communications platforms. Make sure you feature mentor and mentee relationships and how they worked, because that's key for people to understand that, okay, I can, if I participate in this kind of program, that can help me get to where I want to be. But then it also helps to shout out mentors who are giving of their time to participate in a program like this. And then the last thing, as you probably all can tell, I'm really big on feedback and measurement. But the last thing is making sure that you evaluate the impact of the program and making sure that you communicate both up and down that impact, because people want to see that it was a success and the time that they put in really helped to elevate and bring mentees where they need it to be. And so making sure that you evaluate and then communicate the insights that you gain from the program are absolutely key. And so with that, I'm gonna kind of open it up to the floor here a little bit. And again, use the audience chat. But one of the questions that I had for the group that's joining us today is, do you have mentorship programs that you've seen work well? And if you do have those, shout them out in the chat. Let's hear about some great mentorship programs that you've seen work well. And then if you can, how have you seen some of those mentorship programs impact career advancement? And that can be on a positive note, or maybe you can share some things that were maybe not so positive. All right. So I see some things popping into the chat. Okay, one idea is to handle matching and objectives is to set up small groups with similar objectives with a couple of mentors who have that experience. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's actually a really great way to do it. And one of the things that you can also do from the comment here is it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-to-one membership. You could or mentorship. You can have a group mentorship. So you maybe have one mentor who is mentoring a group of three. And that's perfectly fine as well. So love that. Any other comments or programs that you've seen work well? Don't be shy. All right. Yes, Andrea, yes, not all mentors are well suited to be mentors. And that's a really key point, too, is that some people are more suited to be a coach or be a sponsor or be an ally. And so that again is one of those key things around spending the time to make sure that you know your mentors well and that they get the training they need so that they can be as effective as possible. And maybe a mentor gets into the program and they're super excited and they're ready to go. But they realize, and maybe you as the program owner realizes maybe mentorship isn't the best for you. And that again is around that idea of being adaptable. And so, okay, this might not be the best for you. Let's switch things up. And that's okay. All right. Like the one and the group mentorship ideas. Okay. Yes, Dr. Holmes, both have to be engaged. And that's so key. And I think where a lot of mentorship programs also aren't as effective as, okay, the mentee isn't, they want to be a part of it, but they don't necessarily know how to engage with their mentor and how to really get out of it what they need. And so part of that also is making sure again that you're establishing that framework and that outline from the beginning and making sure that you don't just have clear objectives for your mentorship program, but you also have clear objectives for the mentee and the mentor. And establishing those at the beginning and making sure that you're tracking that along the way. So awesome. Awesome. Thank you all for your comments in the chat. Love that. And I am going to go ahead and switch over to another area that we can use and have seen work really well to create a more inclusive environment and make sure that women stay within the cyber profession, and that is around benefits. And so, if I could raise a flag and say that loud and proud as well, benefits are so key. And it's really around understanding the benefits that are really key to the women within your organization and understanding how to do an analysis and make those benefits key in your benefits package. And so some of the things that we've seen around benefits that women really seek within their work organization. And the first one is flexible work arrangements. And so I think it's always been a sticking point, but I think even more when we had the opportunity to start to work from home, is that they are so key, whether it's a fully remote work option or whether it's hybrid or whether it's in the office, but it's also flexible, allowing women to have the balance that they need to manage in work and family responsibilities is absolutely key. And that was the first thing, top of the hill of what benefits women want is that flexible work or environment. And again, that is where you work, but also how you work and having flexible hours to be able to handle those personal commitments. The second one is around career development opportunities. And so we touched a little bit about career advancement being one of those things that it leads to women leaving the cybersecurity workforce. And so, in turn, having those opportunities is one of the key reasons why they stay. And so, giving them access to training, giving them access to mentorship programs, giving them the ability to map out what their career advancement path looks like, is highly valued as women want to seek new skills and they want to progress in their careers. And so, having those programs in place and having leadership development workshops or programs in place is the second highest on women's list as far as what they want in benefits. The third one is, of course, health and wellness. So, having comprehensive health insurance, having those supplemental wellness programs like physical and mental well being, fitness classes, or gym memberships. And of course, in cybersecurity, stress management are all key and absolutely necessary if you want to be competitive in the cybersecurity space and bringing in the most competitive people to succeed within your organization. The fourth one is work-life balance, and of course, that also has to do with having a flexible work environment, but paid family leave and then childcare support are absolutely critical, especially for women who might be in the sandwich generation where they're taking care of kids, but also taking care of elderly parents. And then you also have working mothers. Having that work-life balance is absolutely critical. And then inclusive and supportive workplace culture. We talked about that in having a culture where bias is limited, where they have a sense of self and have a sense of belonging so that they really feel like they are an integral part of the cyber team and are valued and acknowledged for the work that they do. And having that in place in your workplace culture is critical as well. And then competitive compensation. I probably don't have to say more about this, but equal pay. Women need equal pay. They need to make sure that the work that they're doing, that they're compensated equitably compared to their male counterparts, and it's fundamental to them choosing where they work and then choosing to stay where they work. Recognition and appreciation. And you'd actually be surprised at how many organizations don't do this or don't do this well. But we all like a pat on the back, right? We all like to be acknowledged for what we bring to the table. And that absolutely matters for women in cybersecurity as well. And then professional networks and community. And so giving women access to women focused networks, whether that's an ERG within your organization or partnering with an organization like the Cyber Guild to give them access to communities that provide the support, the mentorship, and opportunities to connect with their peers is also key. And again, you can do these things within your organization, but you can also partner with, there's so many organizations that exist that can help you and partner with you to give women the support and the community they need to be successful. And then the last thing that we saw that women really want within their benefits is financial security. So, retirement plans, access to financial education. So being able to find out about financial literacy, how can they make better financial decisions? That is also key for women, and they want that and they need that to ensure that they're also going to be set up well for their future. So, if we move into benefits analysis, and this kind of gets us into that tactical piece, which I talked about at the beginning, of how can organizations look at their benefits, figure out where they stand, and then start to move the needle. We've identified 9 key areas that you can do within your organization to conduct a more comprehensive benefits analysis. The first thing is defining the objectives. Why do you need to conduct a benefits analysis. Is this because you're evaluating employee satisfaction? Are you assessing your competitiveness against other like organizations? Do you need to identify gaps in your current offerings? And so, again, being clear and starting with the why is important here. The second is gathering employee input. And so being able to really go to your employees and conduct anonymous surveys or feedback loops is really critical because they can tell you what's working and what's not. They can tell you what they need. And they can also tell you what they don't need. And this is key because you can find out, are we offering things that people really aren't using and people don't need? And can we do away with some of those things so that we can build in and add programs and things that people actually are telling us that we need? And so gathering that employee feedback is also key to conducting the benefits analysis. And then you want to move into analyzing your current benefits. So building a comprehensive list of all of the employee benefits that you offer, starting with that list and then evaluate its usage. So look at your data. How often are people using the health insurance, the retirement plans, the paid leave, the wellness programs? How often are they using it? Identify which are popular and which are underused, again, so that you can figure out, okay, what do we need to keep and what do we need to build upon? And then benchmark against industry standards. And so look at other like organizations that are either competitors or peer organizations. Look at what they're doing, conduct market research, and then compare that to where you are right now. And then, of course, assess the financial impact, right? So you can't do everything all at once, and you can't provide everything that everyone could possibly need at all times. And so you absolutely need to identify, okay, what can we do? What are the costs associated with doing this? And how can we maybe do it on a rolling basis, phase things out? But of course, your CFOs and financial folks will definitely be happy with you conducting a financial impact to make sure that what you're proposing to do is actually going to work. And then the sixth thing is around identifying gaps and opportunities, right? So that goes back to, okay, where are the gaps in the current offerings and where have employees expressed that they really want additional benefits? And then figuring out how to integrate those things into the new benefits package. And then develop your recommendations. So putting together that plan that's comprehensive that you can shop up into leadership so that they can understand what's needed, why it's needed, and why it's so important is obviously going to be key because you need their buy-in to really change what the benefits look like today. And then, of course, you wanna communicate those changes, right? So people wanna know, what's changing and why. And so conducting, those informal webinars or meetings where people can understand, what's changing and how it impacts them, is also gonna be key. And then on an ongoing basis, monitor and review, right? So when you're conducting this sort of benefits analysis, you don't want to do it and then that's it. You want to do it and then do it again and do it again because things change, workforces change, needs change. And so you want to be able to change along with that. And again, these things are key if you want to make sure you're retaining the best employees and retain women so that you can understand what does the marketplace need and are we meeting those needs. And so with that, I'm going to jump into another group discussion question. And so again, feel free to use the chat. But are there any other recommendations that you all have seen for a more inclusive benefits package that really addresses women's needs right now? So, what things that are out there have you seen that really help to attract and keep women within the cyber profession? Or keep you in the cyber profession. And I'll give it a few seconds for people to type things in. All right, I know there's got to be some things out there, or maybe did I cover all of them? I'll give it a few more seconds and then we'll move to the next part of this. All right. Benchmarking outside of the industry. Yes, Andrea, that's also key. I love that. So, understanding, of course, what's happening in your space, but then also understanding what's happening outside of your space, and how you and what other industries are doing is key as well. Love that. All right. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so we are in the home stretch, and I promise we're gonna get you out of here on time so you can get back to your day. But the last part that we want to cover is action planning, and then want to leave some time here at the end for you to ask any questions. I'm here to again make sure you get what you need. But as we move into action planning, another question that I have for you all is what has had the greatest impact on your workplace culture? So, this can be where you are right now, so the organization you're in right now, or maybe some from an organization that you've worked for previously. But what if you can think of any things that really had the greatest impact on your workplace culture? And again, this can be on the positive side or the negative side. But I'd love for you to put things in the chat, drop some things in the chat around what has really either helped or hindered your workplace culture. All right. I don't see anything popping up. All right, available training opportunities and promotion opportunities. Okay, so I'm thinking it's having training available for anyone that wants it, and then having those promotion opportunities, right? So that really leads to a culture of people who believe they have a place and believe that okay, my leadership and my team wants me to succeed, and they also want me to grow. And so love that. Thank you. Okay, flexible working, trusting people to get their work done. Yes, I personally operate on the okay, we're all adults mode of working and leading. And so being able to trust that people are adults and need to be able to get their work done. Now, if they don't, that's another issue. But that trust is so important. All right, competitiveness and skills and knowledge being criticized. So that on the negative side. So seeing maybe peers competing against each other and not necessarily working together as a team. And so I can see that definitely being a negative impact. Being the only woman on every team. Absolutely. And that is something that is so hard to combat, but why I think we're all here, right? Is how do we combat that? How do we ensure that more and more women again don't just get into the profession but stay in the profession? And so, again, I can't stress enough some of those things that we talked about, like mentorship programs, and having those benefits packages to be competitive is so key, because we need more women. We need more women to build a more resilient cyber profession. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your comments there. And so, as we get into the last portion of this, I'm going to talk about some key things to creating that inclusive workplace culture so that you aren't the only woman on your cyber team or the only woman in the room. And so, I'm going to go through each of these. But the first one is around diverse recruiting. So, actively seeking to hire more diverse candidates and using different job boards, collaborating with other organizations that support women in tech is key here. And so, stepping outside of our comfort zone, a lot of HR folks will, okay, we post the job on our website or we post it on LinkedIn, and that's as far as we go. No, you have to go further than that. There's so many different opportunities for people to get to know your organization, and get to know what kinds of jobs you have available. And so, thinking outside of the box and using those different recruitment avenues is key. Training and awareness. And so, this is really about providing the training that organizations need to be more inclusive. So, unconscious bias training, multicultural competence training, and just talking about the importance of inclusion is so key to building an inclusive environment. And as a person who it leads this function within ISC2, so I lead both our external work as far as inclusion goes, and then also how we build an inclusive culture internally with our staff. These things can be difficult in the beginning, but absolutely worth it. And there's so many different resources and things out there to help you do this and to help you do it effectively. The third thing, again, mentorship programs. And so you need that within your organization, whether it's formal or informal, making sure that you're helping to build relationships and provide guidance for career advancement. Again, mostly everyone is looking to grow in their career. And so providing mentorship programs along with career advancement and training programs is going to be key to making sure that everyone feels like they are included in your culture. And then transparency and open communication. So, fostering an environment where employees feel comfortable to share their ideas, but they also feel comfortable sharing their concerns and sharing things that aren't necessarily working well is key because everyone wants to be heard. And then making sure that those communications mechanisms are both anonymous and open because not everyone feels comfortable sharing and people knowing that it's them sharing. And so you want to provide different ways for people to communicate with you so that you can get the information you need to be better. The fifth one, flexible work policies. We talked about this, but wanted to reiterate that here again, is making sure that you have flexible work arrangements because that drives more diverse people into your organization because people talk, right? And so when you hear people talking about, okay, XYZ company allows me to be a digital nomad, so I can work from anywhere in the world and I'm successful and I can get my work done, they're going to talk about that. And that's going to make more people attracted to come work with you. And the sixth one is around ERGs, so employee resource groups. And this points back to the key point I talked about, which is having community and having networks. And having ERGs, or they're also called business resource groups, within your organization is just one way that you can allow employees to connect and support each other and also support business goals. The seventh way to create a more inclusive workplace culture is inclusive policies and practices. So not just about benefits, but also ensuring that you have accommodations for those with different abilities, that you have anti-discrimination policies, and that you're looking at those policies and practices on a regular basis and making sure that you're keeping up with things that are happening with it, both within the industry and outside of the industry. Inclusive leadership, and again, strive for inclusion in those leadership roles. When people see it, they can be it. And so having diverse leadership teams that is reflective of the entire workforce really brings in varied perspectives and shows people that they have a place within your organization. And then celebrate inclusion for all. And this means acknowledging and celebrating different cultures, different ages, different backgrounds, making sure that you're having recognition programs and events that highlight the differences of everyone. And that really helps to enhance a mutual respect and understanding of everyone within your organization. And then I have to end with this, you all know, is having assessments and regular feedback. So doing feedback and having engagement surveys and things that happen throughout the year are key, because again, you want to know what's happening, and you won't know unless you get that feedback and surveys. And then you need to adapt your strategies based on the data that you're getting from those surveys, and having a continuous learning loop so that, again, you're having ongoing improvement is absolutely key to not only creating an inclusive workplace culture, but sustaining an inclusive workplace culture, because you don't want to just start it, you want it to keep going. And so doing these 10 things on a regular basis is going to really help to bring more women in, but then keep them in your workforce. And with that, I think we have a few minutes left. I'm going to open up the floor for any Q&A from anyone. If anyone has any questions or any comments about the information that I've shared, I'm happy to answer anything. So feel free to put things in the chat, or I think you can also use the QA feature as well. So any questions anyone has? I'm just looking through some of the comments and see some of the people joined companies and quit bosses. Absolutely 100% true. All right. Any questions from anyone? All right. Well, with that, I want to just thank everyone for your time today. We really hope it was informative and helped to give you some key actions and things you would like to create a more inclusive culture and bring more women into the profession and keep them into the profession. And really happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. If you like any further information or just want to talk a little bit more, happy to do that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Joanne. That was fabulous. I feel like I learned so much from that. If everyone could just take a moment and just click that link that I just popped into the chat, we would just love to hear your feedback so we can keep making webinars that are just suiting what you're looking for. And also just a reminder, we do have another community event coming up on December 3rd. We have a book club, so keep an eye out for registration links for that in your email. And with that, thank you so much and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Bye.